A young lion cub tumbled into an abandoned well shaft, instantly shattering the tranquil afternoon across the Serengeti plains. The water at the bottom, stagnant and deep, immediately swallowed the small body. A desperate, piercing wail erupted through the acacia-dotted landscape. Within moments, the lioness and her powerful mate materialized at the crumbling stone rim of the forgotten colonial-era well. The lioness roared, a sound of raw, primal terror, her claws scraping futilely against the weathered stones. The male lion, typically the embodiment of dominance, paced frantically around the opening, his massive weight causing loose rocks to cascade down onto the splashing, struggling cub below. They swiftly understood their formidable strength meant nothing here. Any attempt to descend would only send them plunging into the black water alongside their drowning young. The cub's cries weakened, choked by the cold, deep water now threatening to claim its final breath. The recognition of the well's lethal design pushed the lioness toward absolute despair. But their terror was about to transform into something far more extraordinary. A dangerous, inconceivable choice that would challenge the ancient boundaries between predator and the Maasai warrior. Kamau was moving through his ancestral grazing lands, checking on scattered cattle and monitoring elephant migration patterns when he suddenly found himself facing two enormous, agitated predators. He froze mid-stride, his walking stick gripped tightly, his pulse hammering in his ears. The lioness and her mate positioned themselves directly across his path, their jaws gaping wide. But the roars that followed carried anguish, not hostility. It was a strange, unsettling sight. Kamau immediately understood the peril. Two fully grown lions, visibly distressed, represented a catastrophic threat. Yet, as he observed their behavior, he perceived their posture wasn't aggressive or territorial. It was beseeching. They began circling, distressed, roaring repeatedly, but their attention wasn't fixed on him. It was restless, kinetic panic. The lioness would take several rapid steps toward Kamau, then whirl around and sprint a short distance away, glancing back insistently. The male lion held his position, releasing deep, anguished growls that seemed aimed at his predicament rather than at Kamau. Kamau, drawing upon generations of Maasai wisdom in reading animal behavior, attempted to decipher the impossible message. He understood the absolute danger of two distraught lions mere feet from where he stood. One wrong move, a single misinterpretation, and he became prey. Yet, as he studied the profound fear in the male lion's eyes, the raw, unguarded desperation of a father, an instinctive sense told him this situation was different. He recognized the frantic, non-threatening quality of their plea, understanding they were actively attempting communication. They were suppressing their hunting instincts and the ancient, inherited fear of the red-cloaked warriors to appeal to him. This necessity had stripped away all traditional rules of engagement, forcing a pure, visceral communication of critical need. They were imploring him to follow. But what if the lions were deceiving him? What if this represented a calculated, intelligent trap to lure him into an ambush? The tension was nearly crushing as he stood there, divided between generations of warrior caution and the unmistakable appeal of desperate parents. This unexpected trial tested his courage more profoundly than any cattle raid or territorial dispute ever had. The excruciating slowness of his choice was essential, but each passing moment felt like abandoning the cub he hadn't yet witnessed. He had to decide to trust them. He carefully adjusted his shuka, keeping his movements deliberate and steady, and began following the parents. With a measured breath and a whispered prayer to Nkai, Kamau followed their desperate guidance, unaware of the horrifying, drowning sight awaiting him at the bottom of a forgotten colonial relic. The path was brief but laden with danger. The lioness and male lion guided Kamau directly to the edge of an old, abandoned well, a colonial structure perhaps, or a forgotten water source now filled with deep, stagnant water and crumbling stones. Kamau instantly grasped the grim situation. The exhausted cub was deep within the shaft, barely keeping its muzzle above the dark water. Its cries were now faint, rasping, gurgling sounds. Time, Kamau understood, was vanishing rapidly. He immediately unwound a length of strong sisal rope from around his waist, essential equipment for every Maasai herder, and secured it around a nearby acacia tree. The plan was straightforward: but demanded flawless execution. He had to descend without disturbing the unstable stones, secure hold of a lion cub, and lift it against the considerable weight of waterlogged fur and exhaustion. This water wasn't simply deep, its coldness and the cub's weakening state meant hypothermia would quickly steal consciousness and life, stressing the young body far beyond its endurance. This was the factual danger propelling the narrative. The physics of the trap was as lethal as any predator. The lioness and male lion stood directly at the well's rim, their bodies tense in protective vigilance. Their roars had transformed, becoming a blend of fear, urgency, and defensive aggression aimed at the shaft, but not at Kamau. He could sense the heat of their presence, smell the wild scent of their distress. This was the methodical, tension-building heart of the rescue. Kamau's concentration was on the careful lowering of the rope, his balanced stance, his every action a meditation on precision. The emotional perspective was the sustained, high-tension observation from the parents who were restrained only by the fragile hope that Kamau embodied. Kamau began his descent, the rope rough against his calloused palms, and he realized the shaft was deeper than it appeared. The stone walls were slick with moss and age. He had to navigate a careful climbing descent that positioned him precariously between solid stone and empty air. This was the open loop. He was exposed, vulnerable, and the slightest error meant catastrophe for them both. Could the small cub maintain consciousness just moments longer? The tension was amplified by the terrifying consideration. What if the ancient rope frayed under the combined strain? He dismissed that fear, focusing on the small, whimpering cub. He understood he couldn't hesitate another instant. The cub was slipping beneath the surface again. The moment for planning had passed. It was time for the most dangerous, most vulnerable reach of his existence. A move that relied entirely on the continued, delicate trust of two wild spirits. Kamau committed to the final, desperate maneuver. He braced himself against the narrow shaft walls, extending his arm downward toward the terrified, failing cub. He could feel the cold emanating from the stagnant water. The sight was the harrowing visual pinnacle. The Maasai warrior exposed and defenseless, reaching toward the struggling young life, while the powerful lioness and male lion roared thunderously just above him, their massive silhouettes blocking the sunlight. He managed to grasp the cub's scruff. The effort required to lift it free was tremendous. The weight of waterlogged fur and the cub's exhausted resistance created a formidable burden. He pulled against gravity, his muscles burning under the strain, drawing the small, drenched, depleted body upward against tremendous force. The parent lion's roars intensified, their impatience and terror surging, but they remained anchored in position, held captive by their faith in this warrior. Finally, with a gasping, sputtering sound, the cub emerged from the water. Kamau carefully ascended the rope, the cub secured against his chest, and emerged onto solid earth, placing the small, shivering body just beyond his immediate reach. The immediate peril was over, but the climax of the emotional journey was yet to unfold. The cub lay motionless briefly, then gasped, a rattling cough escaping its chest as it drew clean air. The dread in Kamau's heart was instantly replaced by immense, flooding relief. Now he prepared for the pattern reversal, the moment when the lion's protective instincts would override their gratitude. The anticipated response was aggression or a possessive snarl to reclaim their offspring. Kamau slowly retreated, hands visible and open, waiting for the inevitable charge. But the twist was profound. The two massive predators, witnessing their cub's safety, did not attack him. Instead, the lioness released a soft, low vocalization that was not a roar of hostility, but an exhalation of overwhelming relief. She rushed forward and nudged the cub tenderly, examining for wounds, her focus entirely on her young. The male lion positioned himself over them, his deep breathing now steadying, the tension visibly draining from his powerful frame. They momentarily disregarded Kamau, a silent, powerful acknowledgement of his intervention that defied their very essence. Kamau realized he had just witnessed a raw demonstration of gratitude and relief that transcended the natural order. With the young cub safe and reunited with its parents, the immediate drama concluded. But the most profound aspect of the entire encounter, the unspoken wisdom gained, was just emerging. The cub rested safely on the grass, drenched and weak but breathing. The lioness immediately commenced the meticulous work of restoration, covering the cub with warm, vigorous licks, her tongue removing the water and grime from its fur. The cub nestled against her, secured by the familiar warmth and comforting presence of its mother. Kamau sat back beneath the acacia shade, exhausted, his shuka splattered with well water, granting the family the privacy of this intimate, powerful moment. He observed the scene from a respectful distance, recognizing that he was a temporary instrument of fate, his purpose now fulfilled. This moment transcended physical strength. It embodied trust and compassion. The lioness and male lion had made a choice that contradicted millions of years of predatory evolution. They chose hope and survival through an ancestral enemy. Kamau's willingness to risk everything, and the lion's astonishing willingness to trust him created a necessary moment of cross-species cooperation. This emotional resolution reinforced the understanding that a parent's love and the imperative to survive are universal forces that transcend the food chain. The fundamental message was unmistakable. Empathy is the most powerful survival instrument. Finally, the lioness completed her grooming, nudging the cub to its feet. It wobbled, but it stood. Before guiding their cub gently away, the lioness turned back and looked directly at Kamau. She held his gaze for a long, silent moment, her amber eyes conveying an undeniable, powerful recognition. The male lion stood beside her, his head raised proudly, before they both turned and disappeared back into the tall golden grass, their two massive forms moving side by side, protecting their precious young one. The emotional fulfillment was complete. A fragile life preserved and an unspoken bond forged in a moment of desperation. Kamau remained there, breathless, knowing this profound memory would become the most defining moment of his life as a Maasai warrior. This story is a powerful reminder that every creature, no matter how wild, depends on compassion. If you believe in the power of empathy, subscribe to our channel right now. It's free and it helps us share more stories like this one. And before you go, click on the video on your screen now to see the incredible, shocking aftermath of another lion cub rescue where the lioness gave the warrior a gift he'll never forget. Thank you for watching and remember to always choose kindness.